I would say don't let the time fool you.
Mhm.
A lot of times we say, "Oh, I'm gonna wait until. I'm gonna wait until.
Mhm.
I'm gonna wait until." If have you ever noticed you keep saying, "I'm gonna wait until," but it never happens, you never start. Don't let the time fool you. We're not promised tomorrow. So whatever you're gonna do it today.
Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast, where we tell stories about overcoming adversity. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription helps. Today we have a very special guest in the building, uh, a personal goal coach and a career development facilitator, the lovely Susan Johnson Bennett. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing wonderful. How about you?
I'm good. I appreciate you agreeing to be on the platform, and it's always a pleasure to meet good people. You have come highly recommended, so I look forward to having a good conversation today.
Well, hopefully I'll live up to those words. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. So let's kick this thing off. Where
All
you
right.
from?
Well, I currently live in Lexington, South Carolina, here
Okay.
in Lexington. Born and raised Lower South Carolina, a small town close to Myrtle Beach
Mhm.
in the Conway area.
Okay.
So that's where I'm born and raised. Um, but yeah, military life has caused me to travel a bit,
Mhm.
and we are settled now in Lexington.
Okay. So how was it growing up for you?
Growing up for me, I would say it was a bit challenging.
Mhm.
Um, Probably we all have a story about our childhood.
Mhm.
I grew up in a family that did not have much, and
Mhm.
so we made the most of what we have.
Right.
I often tell the story of my mom who worked and she brought home probably $120 each week
Mhm.
and how she was able to make that stretch. I was fortunate enough to have a father in the home,
Mhm.
but with that also came a struggle or a challenge because my father was an alcoholic.
Mhm.
And although he tried many times to overcome that, he wasn't successful
Mhm.
in his attempts. But that, of course, caused some struggles within the family, and but we made the most of what we had.
Mhm.
Made the most of what we had. My mom, of course, was always supportive. Father was as well, but
Mhm.
being that he had to deal with some things that he struggled with in his childhood,
Mhm.
that kind of left a residue with when it came to his own children, so
Okay. Okay. So, what did you remember having any, I would say, role models or anybody that you looked up to as a child? Who were those people for you?
wow. I, of course, was fortunately blessed to have many role models
Mhm.
growing up. I think about that question you just asked. Um, Talked about my father. Although, there were struggles with what the things that he went through, he was definitely a great role model, first
Mhm.
and foremost. So, I celebrate his life and the deposit that he's made on me or in me. He taught me many things, and there are a lot of skills that I do have, and I attribute it to him being the one who poured into me as a child. He was a mechanic,
Mhm.
he did construction, all those things. And it's funny because growing up, he would always have me holding the light for him. And I think I've learned that that was his way of trying to connect. He tried
Mhm.
to connect the best way he knew
Right.
how, and me holding the light was his way of allowing me to spend time with him
Mhm.
and to glean those nuggets from him. I also had some awesome uncles
Mhm.
who poured into me. They were their father figures in my life. Quite a bit of them went off to the military, but those that remained, they were there to support me and everything that I did. They, of course, pulled out those other skills that they saw in me that I really didn't see in myself. So I appreciate my uncles and those that left to go into the military. That gave me the want to do more, to do better, to kind of don't want to use the word escape, but I will use it.
Mhm.
Escape the life that we were living
Mhm.
and to be able to move to something that's better. So I appreciate all of my uncles and I appreciate my father as well.
Yeah, that's a blessing. We actually share a similar story. My grandfather was actually an alcoholic, and although I don't necessarily know if he ever tried to overcome it in a sense. I always knew that he loved me, and just because we do have family members that have illnesses or afflictions, it doesn't mean that they don't love us. It's just they show it in their own way.
Absolutely.
hmm Um, so let's get to the first thing I want to talk about. A personal goal coach. What is that exactly in your words?
Wow, in my own words,
hmm
a personal goal coach is someone who will come alongside of anyone who has a particular goal
hmm
in mind that they want to crush,
hmm
that they want to accomplish, and they just need that extra push. So that goal coach would be the person that will stand beside them along the way and be not only that cheerleader for them, but be someone who will keep them and hold them accountable. And
mm
so that's what a goal coach is in my own words.
Okay, I like that. Setting goals is a big part of not only me but anybody's success. I feel like you have to have a clear vision of where you want to go before you can go anywhere. That's
Absolutely.
that's huge. What made you become a personal goal coach?
Wow. So um, I told you leaving home or leaving from the small town of Loris,
hmm
I will say growing up all my life, people would always come to me, talk to me about their problems.
hmm
Even older people, I didn't really understand it as a child,
hmm
how they would, of course, um, think that I would be okay to talk to as if I had some experience,
hmm
but I think that they just wanted a listening ear.
Right.
And so I provided that listening ear for them. And so leaving my I when I was 11, I ended up going to the beautician.
hmm
Like we didn't have much money, but I was very excited about this opportunity to go get my hair done.
hmm
Well, when I came out of the beautician, I had that much hair left.
mm
So that was a pivotal moment in my life when I came out of the salon with that much hair,
hmm
and I was horrified. I was sad. I was
hmm
mad. I
Yeah.
was a lot of different emotions that I was going through. And one thing that I remember saying is, I will never go back to a salon again. So
mm
that one experience had a major impact on my life, not just negatively, but positively as well. So from there, I began doing my own hair, and
hmm
people would see the work that I did. And so my family, my grandmother, my grandfather, they had 12 children, and out of all of them, they, yes, had about three themselves.
hmm
So our family was large, and like I said, we didn't come from a lot.
hmm
But I think we all utilized the skills that we had available within the family.
Right.
So they saw that I was able to do hair.
hmm
So instead of them going to a salon or a barber, they would ask me and trust my hands to be able to do that work. And I think leaving from the small town of Loris, I ended up going to Benedict College to get my degree in business management. There were times where students didn't have the means to go to a salon. So I
hmm
ended up doing those students' hair as well,
hmm
which brought me into being married to my husband who's in the military. And because we moved around so much, everywhere I went, I did hair as well.
hmm
Well, in those moments, it gave me an opportunity to listen. It took me back to when I was young
hmm
and how people would share their heart or share their feelings with me. And it allowed me the opportunity to be there to be a support to them. So I from there decided, hey, I don't want people to just come to me and be able to share what they're going through without me being able to make a deposit or give them
Mm,
something that they can leave. Of course, yes, I was a listening ear, but I also wanted to be an encouragement or give them some action steps that they could do to improve their situation.
right.
I didn't want to be a place where people can just come dump their trash.
Mm,
Yes. So, in doing that, I ended up going to Liberty University and getting my master's in marriage and family counseling.
okay.
And so for years, I was able to utilize that degree in helping many, many, many people.
Mhm,
Well, I came to a point to realize that a lot of people were trapped in their past. They were really trapped in their past, in which I do know that we all go through things,
mhm,
but I also know that there are two types of people.
mhm,
One type will allow their past to dictate where they're going in their future or if they're going anywhere at all.
right.
And then there's the other person who will utilize what has happened in their past to propel them further in their future. And so, with that, I decided that I was basically wanting to focus on future things rather than the past, because a
Mhm,
lot of the clients that I was talking to, they were always settling in the past hurt
mhm,
and not wanting or willing to do the work to move forward. So basically, decided that I wanted to do something different and help them work on those things that they can reach forward to
mhm.
and not allow their past to paralyze them.
I like that. I like that. Do you have any tips for anyone? Day one, they come to you wanting to set a goal. What are some tips that
Sure.
you have?
Well, there is a process that I like to take people through. And the first thing I like to tell them that they need to evaluate where they are. You
Mhm,
never really know where you can go until you really evaluate where you are currently.
mhm,
Like, let's define where we are right now before we can even think about moving forward.
mhm,
And then after you evaluate your situation, you see where you are, what you have, and then, have the idea of where you want to go. Then you can alleviate. So, alleviate is the second step in the process that I use with clients, where I say, okay, well, if there's some things that you have currently where you are in your space that is no longer serving you, or it can serve you, put it in its proper place. So,
mhm,
it's like winter clothes in the summertime.
mhm,
You're not going to wear a jacket in the summer, so
mhm.
you're going to put it up to the time it's ready to be used.
Right.
So then, putting things in the proper place. So the next thing I would tell a client to do is to eliminate. If you know you're not going to use an item or a thing or something that's in your life, or things
Mhm,
that are bogging you down, whether it's mindset, or hurt, or whatever it is, just alleviate it, eliminate it. I'm
mhm,
sorry, eliminate it, get rid of it. Don't allow that thing to hold you back. And so after that, I will tell them to separate.
mhm,
So to separate what's left over. After you've already evaluated, you alleviate it, you eliminate it. Now let's separate. Let's see what we have left. Let's put it in its proper perspective. See what goals you want to set. Let's set those goals. And then let's go ahead and activate. After you set those goals, let's go ahead and put some activation to it. So um, I know it is said that people who set goals are 50% more likely to accomplish them than those who don't. And I also know that 3 out of 100 people write goals down. And
mm,
so 90% of the people who write New Year's resolutions, they don't accomplish them.
mm,
So if I feel like if you've gone through all of those steps and you've gotten to the place to where you're ready to activate,
mhm,
and then the last thing you need to do is regulate. You need to step back after you've already put those things into a process. You're working at that goal. At some point, and I say quarterly, you need to take
mhm,
a step back and then just just look at where you are. Just
mhm.
regulate by looking at what's working, what's not, and then you can start the process all over again. So it's like a cycle.
Hmm. Thank you for that. Those were some
Absolutely.
great tips. Speaking of clients, do you have an ideal client that you like to work with?
Well, as a matter of fact, I used to work a lot with women,
Hmm.
typically because that's where I started.
Right.
I also currently am a global career development facilitator in a high
Mhm.
school setting. So
Mhm.
that kind of has changed my mind as to not being um, like I'm not particular in who I
Mhm.
want to help. But I will say this, I want to help a client who's ready to do the work, ready and willing to do the work. A
Mhm.
client who has a goal, has, the mind that's future focused, has the mindset that they're not going to allow anything to stop them no matter what.
Mhm.
And they're ready, like I said, to do the work. So that's my ideal client. Initially, it was women. It was, but
Mhm.
I've moved away from that. Now I'm ready for whoever's ready to do the work.
I like that. Susan, this has been a amazing conversation so far, but we got to pay some bills.
All right.
So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Built on a passion and love for art, All Things Design is here to create spaces you will love and custom designs and memories that will last a lifetime. All Things Design specializes in event design, interior design, corporate design, custom design projects, and home closet organization. And that's just to name a few. Communication is key. We're here for whatever you need. We'll help you solidify your vision and keep in constant contact until your dream is realized. All Things Design, a step above the rest. Be sure to book at allthingsdesign.org. All right, let's get back to this show. Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast, where we tell stories about overcoming adversity. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Today we have the lovely Susan Johnson Bennett in the building. Just to continue the conversation, I would like to touch on, actually, we share a career because I also work in career development. I work for the Career Center here at USC. Um, but just to touch on that a little bit, how did you get started with in the career development field, that is?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom
Mm,
as well as doing hair, and there was a point where I felt like I wanted adult interaction,
mhm,
and so I started subbing at schools.
mm,
I didn't want a full-time job, but I wanted some adult interaction. I felt like that was my way of doing it without being committed to long hours
right.
of work. And so I started at a high school, and they would always call me back when
Mm,
there was a person out in counseling and
mhm,
advisement. And so I ended up doing a long term sub position there, and then they didn't want to let me go.
mm,
They didn't want to let me go. And it was some time after where someone spoke into my life and they said, you know what? You will be a great career coach.
mhm,
All the time that I spent talking to the students, giving them insight and helping them with all the things that they were doing to prepare for their next step in life, I was doing it without even having the title.
mhm,
And so someone saw the work that I was doing and they said, hey, yeah, this is what you need to do. And so I was introduced to the career specialist position.
mhm.
And once some positions came available, I ended up applying for it. And here I am almost 7 years later.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a blessing. What? So you primarily service high school students?
High school students when it comes to career coaching, and I
Mm-hmm.
do work with adults as well
Mm-hmm.
who are going through life transitions,
Mm-hmm.
and then also those who are wanting to do something totally different, like entrepreneurship as
Okay.
well.
Okay. So, what would you say is your least favorite part of what you
The least favorite part, wow. Okay, you got me on that
do?
one. The least favorite part would be running into a client who's stuck,
Mm,
who will not get out of their own head.
mm,
And so, and I know we all get there at
yeah.
times, um, but it's hard when you can see the best in someone else when they don't see it in themselves. So I would say that that will be the hardest part or the part that I dislike about what I do.
Mhm.
when I run into someone who just will not see past what they see.
Mm. So, what are what are some of the trends that you have noticed as far as career development and working with kids? Are there any trends that you've noticed with them?
Wow, yes. Lately, with working with the students that I work with at the high school,
Mhm.
a lot of them want to either go into entrepreneurship, which I think that's great.
Yes.
We all should have multiple strings of income,
Mhm.
but not everyone will be an influencer. So that's
Yeah.
definitely one of the trends that's
Uh,
going on right now with our high school students. Everyone wants to be an influencer. And there will be some,
mhm.
but not everyone will be an influencer. There's still a lot of students who are expecting to be the next NBA
Of
player
course.
or NFL football player,
Mhm.
and which there will be some.
Right.
But what I see the trend is, and even though I'm a goal coach and I know that you need to be specific in what you want to reach, you also need to be flexible to a point.
Right.
And so I do run into some students who have it in their mind, oh, I don't need a career
Mhm.
because I'm going to make millions being a football
Mm.
player, a basketball player, or whatever sports that they think that they're going to excel in. And so my job as a career specialist is to make sure that I provide them opportunities to see that there's more out there. Also, to show them that they can do some things other than sports that they're interested in as well to make an impact on this global society.
I heard that. Do you have any tips for working with the younger population? Uh,
Okay. When you say working with the younger
so, as
population,
far as goal setting and
sure.
getting through to them, I know it's a certain skill set that you have because kids aren't going to listen to everybody.
Right.
So, what are some tips that you use to kind of break through the kids?
All right. So, a couple things that I use. The number one thing that I use is listen.
Hmm.
I have to listen to them. They have to know that you care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So the first thing I have to do is make sure that I'm building rapport with them by
Hmm.
listening, by being available,
Hmm.
um, by also speaking into their life.
Hmm.
So again, a lot of times they don't really know what they're capable of until someone else spark that light for them
Hmm.
and speak into their life. And then I also get them with food. To be honest, I'm known as the person who has a snack drawer,
Uh-huh.
and all the students, well, not all, but a lot of the students, they come to see Miss Bennett
Hmm.
because of the snack drawer.
Hmm.
And when I get them in, and I listen to them, I make myself available to them, I speak into their life, then that's when I can be able to pour into them.
Okay, I
Yes,
like that. That's something that's ever changing because with each generation, people change. Kids definitely change. So
absolutely.
it's important to kind of stay up to speed with how to reach through or get through to our youth because
Sure.
that's the future.
Absolutely.
And I think that you are doing amazing work. It's a very important job what you're
Yes.
doing, and I appreciate you
Thank
doing that.
you.
But I do want to touch on being. I know you said that you moved around, but what is it like being in a military family where you have to move all the time? And what is that like for you as a civilian?
Yes.
Okay, as the civilian in the family, how is that process for you?
Well, my husband, he served 21 years in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
Hoorah. um, and of those 21 years, we were married for 19 of them. And so we traveled, I say quite a bit,
Mhm.
but it's more than the norm.
Right.
We spent about 6 years in California,
Mhm.
and then from California, we end up moving back to South Carolina, and then from South Carolina, we up in Okinawa, Japan,
Oh,
and
wow.
then back to South Carolina to Beaufort.
Mhm.
In all of that, I will say that you definitely have to be flexible.
Hmm.
You have to be open. You, of course, have to be able and willing to sacrifice some things that you might deem necessary,
Hmm.
because I've learned that all the things that we think are necessary really aren't.
Hmm.
Like, they're really, really not. I do enjoy the fact that I've been able to move from place to place, because I've been able to create different relationships.
Hmm.
You know, I call a lot of the people that I've met in different places family,
Hmm.
and those relationships have not died because of distance. And so I appreciate the opportunity to have been able to experience the military life. Now, we do have two children,
Hmm.
and of course, whenever we moved, they moved as well.
Hmm.
And so I will say that it also takes resilience. So you
Hmm.
have to be resilient as well when you're dealing with the different moves, whether it be military or any type of career that will allow you and your family to move.
And that takes a lot. I can only imagine. It's basically it's not just your husband, but you served.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
For
you for your
sure.
service as
100%.
well.
Thank you.
This is a great conversation that we're having. We got to pay some more bills
All
though.
right,
And
let's
then
do
when
it.
we come back, we'll have the too stubborn to fail moment. Real dope photography is more than just dope photos. It's a celebration of your brand, beauty, and confidence at any stage of your life. Our goal is to capture the greatest moments in your life and the world around you. Visit our website at realdopephotography.com. That's realdopephotography.com. And the real is spelled REEL. You know, like a reel of film. Make sure you set up your free consult today. Mention the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast on your booking form in the How Did You Hear About Us section, and you can receive a 20% discount. All right, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast, where we tell stories about overcoming adversity. Today we have Susan Johnson Bennett in the building. Just to continue the conversation, I do want to highlight your book. So tell me a little bit about your book, and what inspired you to write it.
All right. Well, it's not your typical book.
Hmm.
It's basically a goal setting workbook. It's
Okay.
positioning for increase, and it's quarterly goal setting workbook. So I do
Ah.
believe that when you're setting goals, that you look at, of course, the big picture, but
Hmm.
then you also break those goals down
Hmm.
to bite-sized pieces, and that's why it's a quarterly workbook. Um, I basically did this. I got the inspiration because I was helping a couple of clients, and for some, it's hard to pursue a goal when it
Hmm.
looks so huge.
Right.
It's like they are intimidated to start when something like, it's like you're climbing a mountain and the mountain is just so high.
Hmm.
And, it typically takes just one step. You have to take one step. And so breaking it down into quarters, breaking goals down into quarters, allow clients the opportunity to, bite those goals down into smaller pieces. And
Hmm.
so I do, again, have this quarterly goal setting workbook that will help anybody who's ready to set some goals and get them going.
Okay. And where can they find that book?
They can find it on Amazon.
Hmm.
Again, it's called Positioning for Increase Quarterly Goal Setting Workbook.
I like
And
it.
yep, if you just want to, once you're on Amazon, put in Susan Johnson Bennett, it shall pop right up.
Okay, and I love the color. This is amazing design.
Yes, thank
I'll
you.
have to get one of those. That's my wife's favorite color, teal. So
Is that
I
right?
have to get one of those for her.
Okay.
Is that something that comes with with your package?
Absolutely, it does. So any of my clients who I get the awesome opportunity to coach, they do get this goal setting workbook as
Hmm.
well as a journal. So I also have a journal that goes along with it. That journal also can be found on Amazon as well
Okay.
for anyone who's wanting to do the work. Um, and they want to go solo, that's absolutely fine as well. All they do is follow the prompts that are within the book, And I'd love to hear if you decide to purchase it
Mhm.
and put it into practice, how well you're doing.
Absolutely. I'm huge on goal setting, so I'll have to get two of those then. I
Awesome.
like it. But how I like to kind of wrap up my interviews is with a too stubborn to fail moment. Basically, a moment where you had to overcome adversity that sticks out the most for you. So, what is that moment for you?
Wow. A two step to fail moment.
Mhm.
I don't know. It takes me back to um, having our second child.
Mhm.
So we had our first child. We always had a goal to have two children.
Mhm.
Within a year or so after having our first son, we ended up having a miscarriage.
Mhm.
And then a year or so later, we had another miscarriage. But we didn't forget or we didn't let go of the goal or
Mhm.
the vision that we had for our family. And so we knew what it took in order to accomplish that. Um, One thing that we decided that we weren't going to let stop us is what happened to the other two.
Right.
We would celebrate their life,
Mhm.
but we will also continue trying. So we ended up getting pregnant again, and this time we were able to deliver her.
Mhm.
So that was a moment that we were grateful for. But I will say that she came at 6 months. So she came at 28 weeks. And so she was 12 weeks early. She was a preemie. And that was um, something that was hard
Mhm.
that a moment that we had to overcome. But we showed up every day to NICU, loved her in the morning, loved her in the afternoon,
Mhm.
prayed over her, continued believing, continuing to do the things that we knew that we needed to do that was necessary to be able to be in a good mindset when she came home.
Mhm.
So we weren't preparing for death, we were preparing for life. And she needed us to be in a good headspace when she got home. So we had to do the work.
Mhm.
So, yes, that started with the goal. And we had to follow through. And so, a lot of times, I like to tell clients that in setting a goal, sometimes you want it to happen in a certain way. It never really comes out the way that you plan it. And you have to be okay with that. You
Mhm.
have to be okay with, having an audible.
Mhm.
You have to go with what's next, but you will still get there. No matter the detour, no matter the roadblocks, find a way around it to get to that destination.
That was an amazing moment. I thank you for sharing that with us today. Um, but what I like to do is first, how can the people find you before we wrap things up?
All right.
All your social media
Okay.
handles, where they can get the book one more time, and just anything that you'd like to promote. The floor is yours.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me. Anyone
Mhm.
who's interested in the goal setting workbook, Positioning for Increase, you can find it on Amazon. It's on Amazon. You just, like I said, search for Susan Johnson Bennett. It should
Mhm.
pop up. You can also, if you want to follow me, I am on Facebook at Positioning for Increase, as
Mhm.
well as Instagram, Positioning for Increase, on
Mhm.
Twitter for Increase. And then also my website is www.positioningforincrease.com.
Okay, well, make sure y'all tap in and please, please go get this book. I'm gonna beat you there, so go ahead and get it, please. Before we wrap things up, do you have any words of encouragement or closing remarks that you'd like to leave us with today?
Sure. All right. Closing remarks. Encouragement. I would say don't let the time fool you.
Mhm.
A lot of times we say, oh, I'm going to wait until. I'm going to wait until.
Mhm.
I'm going to wait until. Have you ever noticed you keep saying, I'm going to wait until, but it never happens? You never start. Don't let the time fool you. We're not promised tomorrow. So, whatever you're going to do it today.
Mm, I couldn't have said that better myself. It was an excellent way to wrap up this episode. This has been another amazing episode of the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast. I am your host, Darren Perkins. Today we had Susan Johnson Bennett in the building. Just an amazing conversation. I thank you for your time. Um, Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This has just been another episode, and we are signing out.
Peace.